Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 82 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman, joined by my co-host, Chris DiPietro. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you, and if you've been a regular listener, welcome back. We have a lot to cover today and not a lot of time to do it. We'll look at a general overview of the NBA this week and then discuss some important topics across the association. Let's get to our content for the week. The biggest story, I'd say, of the NBA this week, or at least happenings, was the Christmas Day slate. We had a quintuple header on Christmas Day, so we had 5 games for our viewing pleasure, and it was definitely a wild slate indeed. We started off with Cavs Knicks at Madison Square Garden because, of course, you have to play at Madison Square Garden on Christmas Day. The Knicks took a thrilling 126-124 victory, and it was a wild start to the day. The Cavs blew not one, but two 15-point leads in this game. They had a lead in the second quarter and also the fourth quarter, and they blew them both. The Knicks took over in the clutch, even though Josh Hart went down with an injury. And there were some good players on both sides. Jordan Clarkson had 25 off the bench. He was a flamethrower, and I was definitely concerned about the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell was doing his thing, but I was kind of confused, Chris. Why did Kenny Atkinson take out Jalen Tyson in the clutch, even though he had 16 points off the bench? And the Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley front court, I know we've talked about it in recent weeks. Evan Mobley, I know you said he really didn't step up, and I was watching the game live, and he really didn't have any big moments down the stretch. The Cavs really just struggled at the end of that game.
Yeah, it feels like we're just in this constant state of waiting on Evan Mobley. We think he has the tools to become a much better offensive player and a guy who could potentially be a strong number two option on a contending team, and it's kind of just not coming along yet. He's not as assertive as you'd like. He doesn't play as strong as you'd like. Yeah, it wasn't a great game from him. I think he just returned from injury though, so I suppose we'll continue to be patient on him. And yeah, Jalen Tyson's been a revelation for the Cavs. I think he just had a game lately where he dropped like 25 and 20 rebounds as a 6'6" guard, which is just crazy. So he's been a bright spot for them, but there hasn't been many bright spots to speak of for the Cavs so far this year. But this was a fun game, which I wasn't really expecting. I thought the Knicks were going to blow out the Cavs in this one, but it was probably as ugly as a 2-point loss gets for Cleveland. They blew a 15-point lead in the second quarter and a 17-point lead in the fourth. Mitchell and Brunson were both awesome. They had 34 each. Mitchell Robinson had 0 points, 13 rebounds, eight of them being offensive.
That's disgusting.
It's crazy. He changed the game. It felt like seven of those offensive rebounds like came in the last couple minutes when the Knicks needed them most. And the Cavs just somehow find a way to keep unraveling in almost every game they play. But, at least Donovan Mitchell makes it look pretty. Like you said, he's doing his thing. He's usually always doing his thing, but the Cavs find a way to lose it. They're just a totally dejected basketball team right now, and they shockingly lost to the Rockets by 17 on Saturday. But Kenny Atkinson, head coach, franchise leader, he made an encouraging statement about his squad in the wake of their turbulent start to the season. Here it is. I thought the game was over in the first quarter.
Are you sure that's not a Centel quote?
No, that's totally real. I thought the game was over in the first quarter. He said they got absolutely physically dominated. And this is their head coach saying this. This isn't NBA Centel. This isn't an angry fan on Twitter. Yeah, it's bad time. It's a bad time to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan at the moment.
Not where you wanted to be if you're a Cavs fan coming off that 64 win season. But yeah, we'll see if the Cavs can bounce back after some embarrassing losses and see if they can make up ground in the Eastern Conference playoff picture.
All right, so we'll keep the discussion exclusive just to this next game because we'll talk more about the Spurs later. I don't think anybody was expecting this kind of outcome in this game, despite the Spurs winning the last two against the Thunder recently. The Thunder are nowhere to be found, once again, in the biggest game of their season so far. with something to prove, with revenge on their mind, with adjustments planned out, the Thunder were nowhere to be found. Caruso was awful. It was a bad Shea game. It was a bad J-Dub game. It was a bad Chet game. And I think the Spurs proved once again that they're just not scared of the Thunder one bit. They controlled this game, not just in the box score, but I think in Oklahoma City's head. And, that was kind of manifesting itself over and over again throughout the game. Chet Holmgren missed a free throw, and Wembanyama's, thumping his chest, screaming at a quiet OKC crowd, celebrating like he just postered him. Harrison Barnes, of all people, had the audacity to pull out a Pinoy step on Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso and had both of them jumping out the gym. Like he completely fooled them. Harrison Barnes, we're not talking about Dylan Harper. We're not talking about De'Aaron Fox. It was just crazy the amount of confidence they were playing with going into this game. And I think everybody was hoping this game would be a lot closer, but it was just stunning watching San Antonio do this to OKC for the third time in just under 2 weeks. And all of a sudden the Thunder aren't invincible, and maybe they're not this team we thought would beat the 73-9 Golden State Warriors win record. And the Spurs are hot on their tail now for the 1 seed in the West.
Yeah, this was definitely a surprising game overall. The Spurs with a 117-102 victory in Oklahoma City. The Thunder really had the early momentum. They were getting a few easy buckets, but then the tide really turned because there is a man, and he's a really nice man, and his name is De'Aaron Fox. This man went off on the Thunder. He was just hitting bucket after bucket, and really Oklahoma City had no answers. The Spurs were doing great shooting, especially from the perimeter, and the offensive boards were just killing Oklahoma City, which was surprising. I know you have Victor Wembanyama, but Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein should be plenty to at least get some offensive rebounds, and the Thunder just looked like the Spurs just had way more momentum and carried it into the second half and beyond. So, like you said, I don't know how like, this is the third time this month, and I know we'll talk about it more in a few moments, but just a surprising thing overall. And to do it on the Thunder's home floor on Christmas Day really just says the Spurs are ready for prime time. Up next for the 5 o'clock game, we had Mavericks at Warriors, and the Warriors took a 126-116 victory in the Bay Area. The Mavericks really could not stop the Warriors' early outside shooting. I think Al Horford hit a couple big threes, which was interesting to see because Horford's been dealing with sciatica. It's good to see him get back on the floor. Steph Curry didn't score until midway through the second quarter, and the Warriors were still able to keep momentum going. So a lot of other guys had to take charge in that game. Just looking at that game too, I was watching Trace Jackson Davis. He was getting a lot of good looks in the paint. Anthony Davis, shocker, got injured again, so that really hampered the Mavericks. And Cooper Flag really made an impression on me in his Christmas debut. He was getting some good buckets, and we've mentioned it before. This man, he's only 18 years old. Cooper Flag getting that early
19.
19, excuse me.
Turned
Uh,
turned 19 on the 21st.
Hence
So
why I didn't remember that.
don't mean to be the
No, 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 please. We like to be correct here on Dealman at
we
halftime. But
do,
hey,
we do.
Cooper Flag getting that early exposure in his career. And Chris, especially in a big market like Golden State, or if you just want to say California or whatever, on a big stage, that 5 o'clock window, Cooper Flag really making an impression, even with Anthony Davis's injury. But I thought the Warriors overall controlled most of that game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I thought it was probably the most or the least notable game on the slate, just in terms of the two teams that were matched up. But it was a solid game. Anthony Davis left in the second quarter with a groin injury, as did any hopes of a competent NBA franchise trading for him. I think they left as well. I guess they're gonna have to ride with him. I don't think it's a horrible thing because first, I don't think you'd get a whole lot for Anthony Davis in a trade at this point. And second, I think he's a good influence on Cooper Flag. I think he's a good little running mate for Flag early in his career. Both were really high picks, really highly touted prospects, and I think Flag plays with more confidence when Davis is on the floor. But yeah, let's talk about that guy Cooper Flag.
Can
on the
I just
Mavericks.
interject for a second?
Yeah.
The Mavericks, I'm sorry, and I know it's like a throwback jersey. Those green Mavericks jerseys are hideous. They look like the Celtics on
Nah,
that
bro.
floor.
Nah, bro. I'm pushing back, bro. I'm pushing back. They're good jerseys.
They look like the
They're good jerseys.
Celtics.
All right. They look nice. They're clean, bro. They're crispy. It's Christmas. Get a little green, a little holly jolly in the jerseys. You know, blue's not really a Christmas color.
No.
I like they're clean. They're clean. But let's talk about that guy Cooper Flag, the number one overall pick in the draft. Just turned 19 over a week ago at this point. He's averaging 26 and 4 and dropped 27, 6 and 5 in this one. He just turned 19. He's playing like an all-star right now. The three ball's coming. He's getting any shot he wants really. He's playing with the confidence of a superstar. He's playing with the drive and the intensity of a superstar, and he really carries himself like one. But you know, the Warriors win this one. They get a lot of help from their bench, notably from Al Horford, shooting 4 for 6 from three. I think both teams should feel pretty decent coming out of this one. The Warriors have been playing really sluggish, and they find a way to get a win on prime time. I think their championship aspirations are a bit shot at this point, but you know, you get a feel-good win on Christmas, and the Mavericks get to watch Cooper Flag play for the foreseeable future. We'll see if they fumble him like they fumbled another pretty good player they had, but
He'll be
I
on
think they should be really encouraged out of what they saw from Flag.
he'll be on the Lakers in a few years. Don't worry. All right.
Hopefully not. All right, so we'll talk about the Lakers and JJ Redick's post-game comments later. But the Rockets dominated this one, and they needed it coming off of two straight losses to the Kings and the Clippers, who we will also talk about later in a way you might not be expecting. But the Lakers coming off of two losses as well, coming into this one on Christmas, did not need a third one, and that's what they got. I have a lot of issues with the Lakers. I think I fell too hard for them in November. And the idea that JJ Redick is just this coach for misfit toys and can make these fundamentally flawed players brand new again. The team's just poorly constructed around the big three. And again, we'll get to that in a bit. But Rui Hachimura was horrible. 0 for 6. He's not a player that should be getting 30 minutes on a team with championship aspirations, as is DeAndre Ayton, who had a laughable 2 rebounds in 36 minutes on the biggest stage of the season so far, Christmas Day. And yeah, it was a rough Christmas for the Lakers to say the least, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely embarrassing. The Rockets picked up a big 119-96 road win. Just watching the game, Houston was just hungrier than LA. I think that's the only way you can put it. Kevin Durant was absolutely cooking, just hitting timely buckets, had no really issues scoring. The Lakers had a little bit of momentum in the second quarter, but this game was pretty much over as we got closer to the end of regulation. Reed Shepherd, he's really carving a role for himself in the offense for the Rockets. And they were just grabbing like every offensive rebound. There were a couple plays that I saw that I was just kind of like laughing on the inside, not really like externally, just kind of like laughing to myself or just shaking my head. There was one play, I forget like who shot it or whatever. Amen Thompson got an offensive like rebound. He got a putback layup or whatever. All five Lakers were just circling him. They just stared at him. And then there was like another one later in the game. They got like an easy layup. All the Lakers were like standing near the perimeter, like near the wing, and nobody was guarding the paint. And I'm just like, do any of you know how to play defense? It was just embarrassing to watch, and I can see why, as we'll talk about in a few moments, why JJ Redick is frustrated. I liked your little coach for misfit toys. That was pretty funny. But yeah, it's not looking good in Lakerland right now. But the Rockets, great win. A lot of young players stepping up, and again, another big win on the big time stage.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to later how I feel about JJ Redick, but we'll move on here to the 10:30 slot, I believe, of the Christmas Day slate, the final game, which was easily the best game between the Wolves and the Nuggets. I feel like Nuggets Wolves games, especially when they're in Denver, are always just wars. It's must-see TV whenever the Wolves go to Denver. It was a pretty back and forth first half. Then Denver extends the lead to 16, I believe, in the second half. and you think they're starting to pull away, and then Minnesota storms back late, and a LeBron-esque turnaround fadeaway three from Anthony Edwards from Anta Claus sends the game to overtime. Just a ridiculous shot and a ridiculous way that they willed themselves back into that game towards the end. So now going into overtime, Minnesota has all the momentum. They build a 9-point lead in overtime, which was their largest lead of the game. And then Jokic starts hitting threes. Tim Hardaway Jr. hit a big one. He was great for them, and he's been great for them lately. And Jamal Murray hits the three off of a Jokic screen that effectively sealed the game. And from there, Anthony Edwards got himself ejected in just a stupid, emotional, boil over moment. And the Nuggets were able to close it out. It was such an awesome game. It was one of those instant Christmas classics. And I don't think I've mentioned yet that Jokic had 56, 16, and 15. It kind of felt casual from him. And, they'd be putting up a stat line every now and then. And you look at it and it doesn't really hit you as hard as it would for any other player. You're kind of just like, yep, that's Jokic. But if we were late in the fourth quarter and you saw somebody had 48, 15, and 15, you'd be like, oh my God, like they are absolutely dominating this game. This is an all-time performance. And with Jokic, I mean, it kind of just felt like another game for Jokic, at least watching it outside of the box score. He's like nothing we've ever seen before as a basketball player. And I think another ring solidifies him as a top 10 player of all time, not even close, if not higher. I'm kind of less accolade focused, I think, in my approach to stacking players up against each other all time and judging who's the best basketball player. And to me, I mean, I think if you're just going off of pure talent and you're not really looking at accolades, just who was the best at playing the game, I think Jokic is undeniably a top 10 player of all time. Again, if not higher, without the ring, but I think a ring would put him in there for most people. But this was just such an awesome game to close out the Christmas slate.
Definitely a Christmas classic. So we had the Nuggets taking a 142-138 overtime victory. It was definitely a high scoring affair. And as Chris pointed out, a 56-point triple double was the cherry on top for
I think it was the
a
first 55, 15, and 15 game in NBA history.
sounds about right. Something that Jokic is always carving out for himself. And I think at this point, Nikola Jokic and Russell Westbrook are the two players. They could put up like a 40-40-40 stat line and nobody would bat an eyelash. They're just like, okay, we expect that from you, so good for you. Honestly, looking at this game, Jokic, he was carrying early. Jamal Murray is always a demon to deal with. And
He was amazing.
the Timberwolves had a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter, and bucket, bucket, bucket. And if you're a Nuggets fan, you're thinking, uh-oh. And as you mentioned, Anthony Edwards, that tough turnaround jumper, like that LeBron Wizards game back in like 2017 or whatever.
Right, right, exactly.
Um, the stars came out tonight. Jokic and Edwards, both were hot in overtime, and I think Ant might have been a little too hot getting ejected, but just kind of the feeling of a big game. Just an overall great slate. That Timberwolves Nuggets. If we can get a playoff series, I'd like to order four of those, please. Maybe get some Anna clause or some Jokic clause or however you want to do that. But
Give
uh,
us a Wolves Nuggets semifinal, and then give us a
Spurs Thunder.
Spurs Thunder semifinal, and the winners meet in the Western Conference Final. That would be awesome. Basketball gods, please and thank you.
Yeah, no, we're definitely taking that. What a great way to end the Christmas slate. This episode is entitled Post Christmas Blues. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? All right. As we mentioned a few moments ago, we were talking about JJ Redick, and I know Chris has some pointed words or at least commentary about Mr. Redick, or as he says, the coach of Misfit Toys. JJ Redick said that he wants better effort from his Lakers following their Christmas Day loss to the Rockets. He said LeBron's return to the lineup has led to the offense not being organized. So putting blame on King James, or at least his presence, is definitely eye-opening because, Chris, nothing's ever LeBron's fault. So JJ wants to see defensive clarity, role clarity, and offensive organization. He says that we as the team don't care enough right now. And when there's no effort and execution, we're a terrible basketball team. And he promised an uncomfortable practice session on Saturday after Christmas. And he added that he's, quote, not doing this for another 53 games. Chris, a lot to unpack here. JJ Redick, we all thought was going to be like this Pat Riley son or the return of Pat Riley esque in the NBA. And I can definitely see JJ Redick that, he cares and he really wants his team to be good, but at the same time, just pointing out like we're a terrible team. Is it more that it's more on him that maybe he's not doing a good job? But at the same time, the Lakers are not exactly a well-constructed team. They do have good players like Luka Doncic, though. How do you unpack all this?
So after seeing all the quotes from JJ Redick after the Christmas Day game and the days following, just totally chewing out his own team, their effort, their intensity, the execution, and also seeing all the criticism that JJ Redick was receiving. A lot of people saying he lacked some level of personal accountability in all this, and that he might be kind of playing to the media and his own image rather than actually coaching his basketball team adequately. I let all of this simmer, all of these JJ Redick thoughts, and I decided the Lakers do have a really big problem with their staff. And his name is Rob Pelinka. His name is Rob Pelinka. That is the problem with the Lakers. This roster Pelinka has put together just fundamentally disagrees with everything Redick wants to establish, which is energy, it's selfishness, it's consistency, it's willing to be a cog in an organized winning machine. And he's just asking to play hard and smart within your role. And when you think of all of these qualities, is DeAndre Ayton a player that comes to mind? Is Rui Hachimura a player that comes to mind? Gabe Vincent? How about Jackson Hayes? I don't think so. Let's bring in Marcus Smart. He was that type of player one time.
Like 5 years ago.
Yeah. And what I thought was JJ Redick taking all of these kind of broken players in regards to their winning abilities and tuning them up into winning pieces. Like I said, being the coach of Misfit Toys, what I thought he was in November, kind of just leveling all of these players up and molding them into winning basketball players was really just Redick making chicken salad out of chicken. I think he's the one holding the team together, and I really don't think he's the issue. And I think he's a good basketball mind. He's creative. He's adaptable. He's not complete, and he's not super polished, but I think he's clearly a guy that I'm willing to keep betting on to lead my team if I'm the Lakers. And, I think it's a bigger deal than we all think that this team is 20 and 10 given their roster and not like 13 and 17. I felt this way about Redick before Christmas, after Christmas. I've always liked him. And yesterday, on Sunday, I got a huge dose of reassurance when the Lakers, after all this harsh criticism on the team from the coach and on the coach from the media, all this noise about the team playing lifeless and disorganized, they went out there and they beat the out of the Kings. And, it wasn't a perfect game, but, everybody was smiling and the shots were falling and LeBron was reverse dunking and JJ Redick really found a way to rally the troops. And that uncomfortable practice meeting kind of paid dividends here. And I really believe that he's a good coach with a broken roster. And the more that he wins with it, I think the more bullish I'll feel about him as a franchise caliber coach.
Yeah, the Lakers are a interesting team to say the least. You have an aging LeBron who is not what he once was, and he's probably about to either he's about to do it or he's doing it right now, like his semi-retirement tour. So he doesn't, I don't think, have that much left. Luka Doncic is a great player, but he's not somebody who's going to be all defensive first team or second team or anything. He'll get you a block. Even on that Christmas game, he had a nice block and a steal or whatever, but he's not going to be playing lockdown defense, but they have a flawed roster. They have pieces, but I don't know if it necessarily meshes coherently. And as you mentioned, DeAndre Ayton, should not be having 2 rebounds in a game. Gabe Vincent was nice for the Heat
Ridiculous.
culture a few years ago. I don't understand how Gabe Vincent was a starting point guard on a finals contender, and yet now,
On a
like,
Heat team, on
well,
an Eric Spoelstra coach team. It's not like this is
yeah. Well, that was
some
also
random team that can allow Gabe Vincent to do his thing. Like it's unbelievable to think that Gabe Vincent we thought was like a winning point guard a couple of years ago,
and now everybody wants him
and
off the roster.
man, shout out to Eric Spoelstra for getting Gabe Vincent to play like that
No,
because
you were
looking back on it, that is unbelievable.
you were saying the chicken salad, the chicken. No, that man deserves all the credit because Eric
Now
Spoelstra,
that's really making chicken salad out of chicken. I
Eric
mean,
Spoelstra,
he had us fooled, bro.
Eric
That's
Spoelstra
crazy.
could make like it's fool's gold or something. Like if you go away from the Heat, there's no guarantee that you're going to be as great as you are. Now, players like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, of course, they're going to be good on any squad. But just these role players, like, are we expecting them to be something? But anyway, the Lakers just have a flawed roster, and I'm not sure how far this is going to take them. You remember with when they were under Darvin Ham, how the Nuggets just controlled them in the playoffs, and Jamal Murray turned into Michael Jordan. I don't know, how far this Lakers team can go, but we'll see if Rob Pelinka makes any moves before the February trade deadline. Rob
And we'll see if
Pelinka,
he has a job in the summer.
that too, yeah. But I mean, can you really fire him though, considering that he just robbed the Mavericks of
That's the
Luca?
thing. It makes it hard because I mean, I feel like in all likelihood, Palenka was just sitting there and got a phone call from Nico Harrison, and you can't deny a trade for Luka Doncic when you're receiving him, and he kind of just gets this trade offer of a lifetime that he can't refuse, and the team's better because of it, and the team locked up a superstar for the next however many years because of it, a guy who's going to sell tickets, a guy who's gonna lead the league in scoring. And like you think about it, like this move very well could have not been any of his doing. Like it could have just been Nico Harrison reaching out to the first team he thought of to get rid of Luka Doncic. And all Rob Pelinka said was yes. And a move like this could have just saved his job for the next 2 years when the roster is so deficient in other areas. So it's like it's a tough situation. And if I were a Lakers fan, I mean, I'd be happy I have Luca, but I'd be kind of pissed that it probably secured Palenka maybe another year or two.
It's not a good situation. It's not a bad situation in LA. You could be the
Confusing.
Clippers. You could be the Clippers. So it could be
Could be the
worse.
Clippers.
It could be plenty worse. But we'll see what the Lakers want to do in the coming months.
Who would have thought when they woke up just over 2 weeks ago that the 24-1 Oklahoma City Thunder, tied for the best start to a season in a team's first 25 games in NBA history, would go 0-3 to the San Antonio Spurs over the next 12 days? Let me tell you, nobody would have. I didn't. I know Larry didn't. I know Larry didn't. Okay, I know he didn't. But the Spurs took the fight to the Thunder in all three of these games in a way that no other team's really been able to replicate. And I think Mitch Johnson deserves a ton of credit for having his team play fearless against one of the most intimidating teams that we've seen in years. And, even more credit to him for the fact that they did all of this without a full strength Wemby. And, I wasn't sure if this was going to be the breakout year for the Spurs yet. I'm not sure if anybody did. When you have a talent at his youth like Wembanyama, it almost felt inevitable at some point that, the team would kind of break out as a true Western Conference contender. But, for this year, you kind of had an awkward logjam at guard, despite the talent, a ton of talent at guard we know, but De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Castle, how are they all going to fit together? Wemby had missed the last 2 months of the previous season, and it just didn't quite feel like the explosion year yet from the Spurs. that again kind of felt inevitable at some point with a player like Wembanyama. But they have exceeded expectations and more this year, even with a roster that still feels like I think has some room for improvement. And like I said earlier, they're only 3.5 games behind the team people thought would beat the 73-9 Warriors wins record. And, we know that they can beat them because they just did it 3 times. And, this has just been a really interesting shakeup at the top of the basketball hierarchy. The Spurs have been able to match the Thunder's physicality and athleticism like no one's been able to do. They've been able to come at them fearless like nobody's been able to do. It's just been super impressive what we've seen from San Antonio. And the Thunder are the Thunder, but I don't even know who you take in a 7-game series right now. I think a lot of people, rightfully so, would lean towards San Antonio. I can't say this enough. They just beat them 3 times within 2 weeks. But on the other side, the Thunder are the Thunder. So it's tough. But like I said, it's just been a super fascinating shakeup at the top of the West and the top of the NBA. And I think we're really all hoping to see what could happen in a playoff series between these two. Hopefully in the West Finals or at least a semifinal. That'd be awesome.
It's really shaken up to be a great end of the back half of the season, and even as we get to April and May. As you pointed out, yeah, San Antonio 3-0 over Oklahoma City in just this month alone. It leads to the question, do the Spurs officially have the Thunder's number and why?
It's
But
hard
they
to argue not.
but they just have a like great play overall. The Spurs have just so much young talent. Victor Wembanyama, it's not like he's averaging like 50 points every game against the Thunder. I mean, they're getting great production out of their entire roster, and Mitch Johnson is doing a great job making adjustments and not allowing SGA to just absolutely detonate on his Spurs. Now, what I found interesting, it's not like the Spurs have hosted all 3 games. So this month they got a win over the Thunder, one in Las Vegas for the NBA Cup, one in OKC, and one in San Antonio. Very balanced, Chris. Very balanced. Not winning, just at home or just on the road. One home, one away, one neutral. Very, very interesting to see that. And they have 2 more matchups in this regular season series. The next game is on
They
January.
do? Oh my God, we're getting 5 games between these guys.
Well, I guess, I
I mean,
guess
I know the cup game doesn't count, but I mean, dang, I didn't even process today.
the
That's
cup
that's
game,
amazing.
the cup game, it kind of counts, but it kind of doesn't because every team still plays 82 games somehow, some way. But
Yeah.
yes, we are getting 5 installments of this in the regular season. The next game is on January 13th. It is in Oklahoma City once again. So that'll be a great test for them. Well, I don't want to say test, but another great battle between these two heavyweights.
What do
But
you think the percentage chance is that the Spurs take all 5 games and they win these remaining two?
I think the Thunder take at least one. I mean, I think it'll
You
go down
have
to,
to, you have to
I
think
think I
that.
think it has to go down to the wire, but I don't care if it's like the NBA divisions really don't count. It's like more in the NFL and the MLB and stuff like that. Divisions count more. It's hard to beat an opponent 2 or even 3 times in a single season just because of adjustments. If they somehow win all 5 games, I'd be speechless. Like it'd be like
That'd be
look
unbelievable.
like it would literally be the Spurs might get the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. But the NBA Cup game that went down to the wire, and the other 2 games were essentially blowouts. And
Unreal.
The Spurs are just finding ways to win, whether bringing Wemby off the bench, whether De'Aaron Fox shoots the lights out, getting Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper involved, or even as you mentioned earlier, Harrison Barnes of all people. It's great to see them getting.
Dude, he was fearless, bro. It was crazy watching Harrison Barnes put his foot on the gas against Alex Caruso, Chet Holmgren, and the Oklahoma City Thunder's defense. I think it's just such a testament to Mitch Johnson. Because Harrison Barnes is not a player who does that. He doesn't put his foot on the gas and take over games regularly, at least. And he took the fight to the Thunder, as did the entire Spurs team. And I don't think you can put that on anybody else but Mitch Johnson. He's been such a gem of a find for them.
Ironically enough, since we're talking about the 2015-16 Warriors, Harrison Barnes was a starter on that 73-9 team and was immediately cast off after that 3-1 choke in the finals for Kevin Durant. So it's good to see Harrison Barnes still doing stuff in the year of our Lord 2025, almost 2026.
He's balling, dude.
Yeah, definitely for the Spurs, that veteran presence. So the Spurs really have the Thunder's number at the moment. We'll see if it carries over into 2026 and the spring as well. And hopefully we get this as a Western Conference Finals matchup.
We're going to move on to the game of the week here. And, when discussing the best or most attractive to the viewer game of the week for any week, you're probably going to look towards the top teams in the league. But although we have several great matchups this upcoming week, one really caught my eye, and it was not towards the top of the standings, quite the opposite. It was towards the bottom of the West specifically. Maybe the two most hopeless teams in the NBA right now will be facing off in the Depression Classic. I've named it. Or maybe the Blues Bowl, if you will. Things have been pretty hopeless and pretty depressing for the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Clippers so far to start the season. But maybe not so hopeless lately for the Clippers, who have rattled off four straight wins coming into this one. And Kawhi just dropped a career high 55 points last night. I saw this was a career high on Twitter. People were saying career high 55 from Kawhi Leonard, and I thought that felt pretty low for Kawhi. So naturally, I did some digging, and I could not believe his career high prior to this game was 45 points. He has had 9 games with over 40 points in his entire career. If you asked me prior to researching this at all, how many 40-point games Kawhi Leonard had in his career, I'd probably tell you around 90. He had just 9, which was just flabbergasting to me. But anyway, the Clippers have been a more competent unit lately than they had been to start the season. And ultimately I think I have no choice but to pick them over the Kings here, whose only real glimmers of hope this season have been owning their own first and second round pick, which I wasn't expecting. I thought they had maybe given up one of those picks to establish the Bulls West roster that they have constructed for this season and for the last couple. So good for them. They own their picks. And also some inspiring play out of second round pick Maxime Renaud, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he was their only pick in the last draft. He's been playing pretty solidly. But yeah, when your only glimmers of hope for a season are not giving your picks to another team and some solid play out of a second round pick, that could probably tell you a lot about how the season is going for said team. So, like I said, I think I have no choice but to go with the Clippers in this one. I'll go 112, 108 in this absolute blockbuster of a matchup here. The Depression Classic, the Blues Bowl. Larry, who you got in this absolutely riveting game?
I'm telling you right now, this might be one of our top games of the week this season. Oh my.
Undoubtedly.
We got so the Kings, it's going to be a road game. We got Kings at Clippers, and the game is on Tuesday, December 30th at, oh my Lord, 11 o'clock. Chris, why? This should be a prime
Is that
time
the
game.
latest start time of all time?
It has to be. Now, granted, for us on the East Coast, it'd be 8 o'clock, but still, like, ugh, that's
Huh?
nasty. That's nasty. Or may,
No.
or maybe it's
I mean, dude, it's Jazz Clippers or no, it's Kings Clippers. It's out west and the start time's 11 p.m.
yeah. Well,
That
well, wait. Now I now
all
wait.
of
Now
all of
I
them
got
are
it.
in Eastern time, right?
Wait. Now I got to look at this. Hold on. Yeah. No, I think
I
maybe.
think the 11 p.m. is Eastern time.
Yeah, actually might be.
We will be losing sleep
Oh
over
yeah.
the Kings Clippers game. We will be.
Oh yeah, because
Undoubtedly,
it'd be
without a doubt, you
the
have to stay up for this game.
yeah. So it's going to be starting at 11 o'clock, most likely Eastern Standard Time. That is absolutely amazing if you are an East Coast hoops head. Only the first meeting of the season between these two very competent franchises. So
Certainly.
We'll get to see more of this Depression Bowl or Depression Classic in the coming months. As Chris pointed out, the Clippers are on a 4-game win streak, including over with Kawhi's career high. They somehow smacked the Pistons,
They've been beating good teams.
which is hilarious because the
I think
Pistons
they
have
just beat
been,
Houston too.
yeah, the Pistons have been literally dominating this entire season. And the Clippers, this is a nice little Christmas present for them. This is actually their second, or this will be their second of 5 straight home games. So the schedule makers gave them a nice little break in terms of road travel. The Clippers and the Kings right now are both injured to hell. For the Clippers, Ivica Zubac is out for a few weeks with an ankle sprain. Bradley Beal, he's been out with a hip fracture. He's out for the year. The Kings are injured too. Keegan Murray, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis all are just battling injuries. The Kings, there's kind of some good news and bad news. Russell Westbrook, he's been doing really good, 20 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games before Sunday. The bad news is, though, they get a nice tough challenge on New Year's Day when the Celtics pay a visit to Sacramento. But just an absolute depressing game, but it could be a funny game too, just watching. There are stars on the floor. We'll see Russell Westbrook. We'll see DeMar DeRozan. We'll see James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. This game probably would have been near the top of the standings like 5 years ago. Things have not worked out in these last couple seasons for them. So, of course, I'm going with the Clippers as well to win this absolute classic of a game right before we flip the calendar to 2026. I'm going 118-109 in favor of the home team here. And what was interesting when Chris and I were finalizing our itinerary for this episode, my original pick, I was looking through the schedule and I'm like, let's do Timberwolves and Heat. I thought that'd be a fair one. And
Fun game.
that was actually my score prediction for that game. I think I had the T Wolves in that one. But then Chris was like, no, 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 we're doing Kings and Clippers. And he's like, hear me out on it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
This is a
So,
once in a lifetime opportunity to
yes,
do the Kings and Clippers
of
in the
course.
Depression Classic.
Of course.
We will be sacrificing sleep for this game. We will accept 4 hours of sleep to stay up to watch Clippers versus Kings. I
Now
mean,
the
who isn't?
now the true classic will be, I don't know if they've seen each other yet. Pacers Pelicans. They're actually the two worst teams in each conference right now. We'll see how that works. But
Yo, Pelicans not for long though. Derek Queen's balling, boy. They
but
they got something building down in NOLA.
no, we'll see. We got the Clippers in this matchup in this absolutely riveting game. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast accounts, Chris and me, on social media. The 3 podcast accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and X or Twitter are under @Diehlman@half. My personal X and Instagram are @Larry Diehlman. Chris's personal X and Instagram are @ChrisDippy. All 7 handles are in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, although you can find Dealman at Halftime on major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, the main podcast website is on Buzzsprout. The website URL is dealmanathalftime.buzzsprout.com. Feel free to send a comment by using the Send Us a Text button located in each episode's bio. With the exception of Apple Podcasts, the text option is available on Buzzsprout and all of the major platforms. Your comment could end up in the fan mail section of the Buzzsprout website. And don't forget to spread the word about Dealman at Halftime. We hope you guys had a great Christmas and holiday break. And since this is our final episode before the calendar switches to 2026, we wish all of you a happy new year from all of us here at Dealman at Halftime.
Happy New Year's, Hoops fans, and Dealman at halftime, brothers.
Happy New Year, guys. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.